Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start to this nice Saturday morning over here as we wrap up the week of trading for CME and prepare for the next few weeks to come. Bitcoin, we were looking at a bit of a short-term pullback yesterday, plus a potential trap. That trap situation was obviously confirmed below about 19,400 or so. And what essentially does that mean for the next, for like the next 10 to 20 days or so? Other than that, I'm still feeling sick as hell, but it's all good because it's slowly getting better now. It's still kicking my ass, but slowly getting better. At least that's what I tell myself. And so I want to get this video out in preparation for the rest of the month, essentially. Anyways, with that in mind, I wanted to start it off once again right on over here on the Krown trading application. This can, of course, be found in the link in the description below. And the global open interest did spike up earlier this past couple weeks, of which all of the spikes that we have seen on global open interest, especially over the last year and a half, have been met with downside price action as it does unravel. Further to that point, if I can remove my little rat over here, there we go, goodbye. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the leverage ratio, which is essentially at all-time highs. And again, all of the spikes up here to basically all-time highs have been met with downside price action as well. So I thought that was rather interesting. And again, another sort of confluential factor that Thursday's price action was a bit of a trap. And what the hell? There's something going on in the background here. I'll turn my camera back on. That light just went absolutely fucking berserk. I don't know what's happening over there, but it doesn't matter. There's more important things to be speaking about. All right, so let's go back into the short-term time frame analysis that we're looking at from yesterday. So yesterday we were looking at this region right here as a nice little potential rejective region, and that would confirm, more importantly, not just a pullback but an actual trap with price action below 19,400 or so from yesterday's video. So again, yesterday it was pullback first, potential for trap. If Bitcoin goes below about 19,400, there's your trap confirmation. And obviously we got that. Confluential to that was also the 6-hour hidden bearish divergence over here. I completely missed this on yesterday's video. That was my bad, obviously, but yes, indeed, it is indeed in there, I should say. And then of course, once that trap scenario was confirmed, what essentially is the next most likely thing to happen, as we were saying yesterday, is, hey, probably another move back down below 19,000 bucks. So far on CME, Bitcoin got down to about 19,000, just above 19,000, actually 19,065 to be exact. So coming into next week, obviously because CME is not trading over the weekend, probably would be looking for another stab below 19,000 bucks. Anywhere around this region right here is fair game. Similar to before, though, I would still refrain from calling an actual major meltdown to significantly new lows. And when I say significantly new lows, I mean probably in the $15,000 to $16,000 region minimum, until Bitcoin does close below the overall range lows, which is 18,100 on a higher term time frame. Or if you do see a trade basically below last week's low, which is 17,810 on CME. Very specific right there. It is completely different than spot, by the way. CME actually did make new lows this past week on a wick basis and on a closing basis, whereas spot did not. So spot already traded back down, spot traded down to 17,500, obviously back in June. Anyways. So yes, because CME is not trading over the weekend, this is more or less relevant for the next week to come. And what happens over the weekend, who the fuck knows? I really don't have strong opinions on that as usual. But seeing as we do still have this hidden bearish divergence over here, which I would say is not necessarily resolved just yet. And when we reference stochastic momentum, starting off with a 6-hour time frame, we can see that pressure will be down to start off the week, or very likely to be down. 6-hour time frame will turn down below about 19,000 bucks upon open. So Bitcoin's still kind of hanging around here. Well, not only going to be around the edge of this critical zone and also fulfilling a trendline regression test over here. Well, probably also going to be turning down around that region. To also lead that off or corroborate that story, we could go and reference the 4-hour time frame, which is already turning down. And by the way, will be remaining with downside pressure on price action as long as Bitcoin's below 19,850. Not impossible to get back above there, obviously, but I'd say a little bit less likely in this case. The 3-hour time frame also going to be turning down already below that same number as a pivot, 19,800. And hourly, I believe, is also down. In fact, yeah, indeed it is. A lot more close to current price action with the pivot at 19,150. So as always, there has to be an invalidation on the other side. What essentially would invalidate a move back down below 19,000 bucks first before like trying another move to the upside, another bounce in this case. It's the same breakdown point as that past trap confirmation, which was, if you want to be super exact, 19,450 actually on CME, although I was saying 19,400, just kind of like an easier way to say it. But back above there, I probably would be looking for another return, probably above 20,000 bucks actually, probably even retest these highs that we did see from the first week of October. Anyways, with that in mind, let's now go reference the higher term time frame. So yesterday we were also pointing out that, hey, the weekly had a chance to twist and turn to upside momentum, but with the way that CME did close, it will not. It actually closed about 27 bucks below the momentum pivot right here. I'd say that again, you're kind of playing with fire on something like this, because ultimately when you do stay, this far down for this long, it really doesn't take too much to turn these babies back up. But as you will notice, in all major melting moves, whether it be to the upside or the downside, they all do happen under extreme conditions for momentum oscillators. You just can't trust overbought or oversold. They're like a myth in trending conditions. So this potentially could be one of them. Definitely a potential setup right here. And of course, it will actually open down, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't rally up, a couple $100 before end of weekend when CME opens back up. Other than that, and also I should point out that, really really wouldn't take too much, to be honest. You can see this sort of trendline regression coming in from the November highs. How many more times are you going to test without breaking it? Probably 2, 3 at most. Two is probably it. 1 is kind of what we're seeing right here. So realistically, that I don't think that this is. This is pretty fucking intense right here. Pretty fucking intense pressure. That's just what I wanted to highlight. All right, so now we need to get into what I think is the most important portion of this analysis, probably the most frustrating as well for many people, simply because it does require a lot of patience, but that is going to be the volatility versus stochastic momentum signature that we've been following, that has been relevant for the past couple weeks here, going back to basically the start of October. So what is the signal? It is volatility first, getting to extreme lows represented by this indicator, BBWP. Extreme lows is denoted by anything below 10 percentile or more. The full history of CME has had many of these iterations, and on average, the expansion phase that follows after that extreme contractive phase has led to an average move of 24.25% almost, done over the course of about 2.5 weeks, and the stochastic oscillator has been correct in getting that volatility expansion direction 83.33% of the time. The reason why that's relevant right now is because yesterday there was a chance upon the recording of the video that we would actually see momentum actually turn to the upside. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. Obviously, Bitcoin did close below the momentum pivot at 19,500. And obviously, we knew that was very unlikely. That sounded very haughty. Sorry about that. But what I mean to say is the big warning flag, the big warning signal, if you will, was going below 19,400 before that. So it didn't really need to wait for closure in this case. But momentum will remain to the downside. Again, as long as this condition is met. And again, we have a few things of interest here. It's not just momentum remaining to the downside. It is yet another trendline regression rejection coming in from the highs of March of this year, I should add. And not only that, it's also rejection of the bullish control zone right here. So this was kind of a pivotal one as far as I'm concerned, because that was probably the biggest potential that we could have seen on Friday that would have led me to look for a greater bounce first. In this case, Bitcoin closing well below that pivot does at least suggest that we're probably going to test somewhere into the $18,000 territory to open up next week. Could it be, just a shallow test, maybe somewhere around 18,500, 18,600? Perhaps yes. Could it be all the way to the bottom side of the range? Could it break the range? Definitely possible. This is kind of what you would be looking at a potential, macro range break here, because we are witnessing volatility so low for so long in this case. This is the lowest volatility conditions that we've seen for this long, basically since June, July of 2020, which was precipitating the last mega breakout, basically. In that case, it was to the upside. The other time that we do have kind of comparable low volatility conditions to this would actually be coming off of the 2018, 2019 lows right here. And before that, you can see in 2018, before the ultimate meltdown, this was like a 50% move to the downside. It was actually lower for longer, in fact. fact. And if you were around during that time, you probably remember how fucking boring that was. Anyways, going back to our current trajectory over here, as long as Bitcoin's below this pivot, I would say that this is one of the potential, like this next week actually does have a real potential to drop the bottom out. And again, what sort of numbers would we be looking at if that were indeed to happen? Well, we can reference the data over here. We can look at the average move. We can look at the first standard deviation, which is where we expect 68% of the results to kind of fall between. And if we take that from, let me actually just scroll this around. There we go. If we take that from where the signal would potentially be confirmed from, well, 15% puts you where? Puts you at about $16,500. So that's an area of interest. 24% puts you at about $15,000 to $15,500, and 33% puts you significantly lower at about $13,500 to $13,000 or so. And who knows where a fucking stray wick comes in along those trajectories as well. So just like yesterday, as long as Bitcoin's below the momentum pivot, the downside targets are obviously more statistically relevant. 83.33% if you want like an actual number on it. It's not the same thing as a certainty, of course, but as far as like probabilities go, it's a lot more relevant as far as I'm concerned, and that's what I really like to be running off of because, well, still haven't found a way to be 100% perfect, not even close to that, in fact. So if you do have one, definitely let me know because it'd be rather helpful. I also do think that it is interesting to see one of those targets, I think on the lower end, kind of align with this as a descending triangle here. You can pull that back a little bit more if you want to be super exact with it, which is actually how things did break down in 2018, by the way. And if we were to take that and apply that to the potential breakdown zone, that would actually be around your $15,500 to $15,000 target, which I do think is rather interesting as well, the confluence between those two numbers. Again, it's still completely awaiting validation, and personally speaking, I would not be willing to call a move like that without minimum seeing a break below the current range lows. But you can see that things kind of are starting to stack in that direction. Now there also is a very obvious reversal point for this current move here too, and that would be this prior week's high. In fact, or is it this prior week's high? I think it is. Yeah, basically the highs of what we saw on the 14th. So that was Thursday. Was that Thursday? Sorry, that was Friday. I guess it was early Friday morning for myself. Anyways, any sort of move back above there, and then yes, I would be looking for Bitcoin to return back up to 20,500, those prior weekly highs from early October, and then just Bitcoin play out a greater rally from there. Yes, very, very likely. Yes, in fact. But for right now, I do think that next week's probably going to test somewhere down around here below $19,000. The question is, does Bitcoin bounce or not? And I don't have an answer for that. Obviously, I do not have the Palantirs or the fucking crystal balls. Unfortunately, mine is broken as of the current moment. All right, sweet. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving it off. I need to go rest my voice and probably just rest my body. I'm actually in bad shape right now. So I would like to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.